I was sitting in this professor's study. I'd gone to go and speak to her about the science of identifying race in bones and ancestry and whether you could tell if someone was black or white by their bones. And she took me down to the basement, and in this basement she just had hundreds of boxes. And in these boxes there were bones. They were full skeletons where the bones had been cleaned, and they were put into these like meter by half meter boxes. And every one of those bodies belonged to someone who was unidentified. And somewhere, someone's wife or son or daughter or aunt or lover was thinking that that person was going to come home. I can't imagine what that would feel like. And that's why I started writing the series. You know, the thing that story series showed more than anything else? Science is not enough to solve problems. You need political will. Science occurs in a social context. So when we're talking about unidentified bodies in Gauteng, that's a social issue. We need science to help address it, but science alone isn't enough. The changes haven't come in South Africa yet, although I hope that they will. They haven't come yet to start addressing such a serious problem. I wonder if freelance journalism isn't at its heart some kind of masochism, right? So about 2 years ago, I was retrenched from my job. I was science editor at a national publication, but there is nothing that I wanted to do other than be a journalist. Initially it was cool because there was work at home in South Africa, but in the last year or so the South African journalism market has imploded. So I decided that I needed to, if I wanted to carry on in journalism, that I needed to get into an international market. And it is quite difficult being an African journalist trying to pitch to international editors. Not everyone, but many editors believe that we're smacking rocks together, and that you couldn't really be doing good science on the African continent. So a lot of being a freelancer for me has meant creating relationships with editors at international publications, and a lot of my time does go into managing those relationships. There is a great deal of rejection, because if you are going to get hold of new editors, you're not part of the international networks where you meet someone at a coffee or at a press briefing. So a lot of it's cold pitching, and working with editors has generally been positive. There have been one or two bad interactions, which I put in a box and try and forget about, because I think that you need to be resilient as a freelancer. Locate yourself in a context of journalism that is struggling and science journalism that's fighting for relevance. But at some mornings it's not as easy as others. Well, as you can see from my answers, I'm weighing up the pros and cons. You know, all I've ever wanted to do was tell stories. And the thing about being a freelancer where you don't have the safety of a publication. I mean, if I were to consider how I divide my time, at least 60% of it is involved in the admin of pitching. It's a difficult question because it depends on you and on your circumstances. It depends what you want. Being a freelance journalist, you are never going to own a catamaran in the Bahamas. But when I think about what I want to do and how I want to spend my life, I want to spend it telling stories and telling stories that matter. So if I were to give advice to other science journalists, it would mainly be to remember why you do it. For the most part, people won't notice the stories that you tell or clap you on the back for them. You need to know that you're doing something important and something that matters.